in opposition who really have lived in the United States virtually their whole lives and have not spent much time in Syria at all and don't really know all the ins and outs. And while certainly I would not characterize the Assad regime as a defender of human rights or anything like that, but as we would not, or I wouldn't have characterized Saddam Hussein as being a defender of human rights. But if you look at a secular government and a government that had provided some of the best education, health for its citizens, those are now two governments that are no longer really able to.
And Saddam Hussein may be compared with Hafez Bashar's father. Bashar is far more really open-minded and less dictatorial. I mean, he studied in French schools. He studied medicine, had no interest in politics, and then he went to England to specialize in ophthalmology. And then when his older brother, who was supposed to follow his father, was killed in a car accident, his father asked him to come back, and they got him in prison.
Well, this is certainly the highest priority of a tribute for the international community to do everything possible to try to broker a ceasefire among all the parties. And I think a ceasefire from the opposition's point of view is probably the hardest part of it all.
Well, they're not able to get a delegation to go to Geneva. Who's going to represent the opposition? They're all fighting with each other.
Yeah. So that's a real conundrum right there. From Syria, let's go to another part of the Middle East, if we may, and something that I've been working on over the last, or I've been a part of, for the last 5 years, from the Israeli attack on Gaza in 2009, at Operation Cast Lead, where the Israeli military in 22 days killed 1,400 Palestinians, wounded 5,000, left 50,000 homeless. I and various groups went into Gaza right after the attack ended and started writing articles about it, and then we started taking groups into Gaza. Now, here it is 5 years later, I've been into Gaza probably 8 times, 10 times, and I've also been on missions to try to highlight to the world what the Israeli blockade of Gaza, and particularly the naval blockade of Gaza, has been doing to the people of Gaza. So I was a part of the first flotilla in 2010, the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, that was attacked by the Israelis, and 9 people killed, including 1 American, 17-year-old Furkan Dowan, who was executed, as were all of the people. He was executed. He had 5 bullets in his body. After we came back from Israeli prison, after having been forced to go to Israel, and then were told that we had entered the country illegally and kept in prison, and then subsequently deported now for 10 years. So that limits you. You can't get in to even go to the West Bank. So that's a tragic part of this whole thing, that where you really challenge the Israelis on their policies, they'll deport you and not let you back in. And in fact, they are deporting people who haven't done anything, that they are just turning people around at the airport, putting them back on a plane if they have any suspicion at all that they might be going to the West Bank or doing any sort of solidarity work. Well, our second flotilla, which was in 2011, had 10 boats in it. 10 national campaigns had been working to raise money to purchase boats that could go from Greece and Turkey into Gaza. The Israelis, rather than firing on us directly, they co-opted the Greek government with a huge amount of money not to let us sail from Greece. And even though our boat did try to, we tried to break out and got 5 miles offshore before we were accosted by, well, they looked like Israeli commandos, but they were Greek commandos that were coming after us. And as they pointed their weapons right at us and said, don't come any further, because we'll shoot. And we turned back around. Our boat is still in the port of Piraeus. It's still impounded by the Greek government. So over the years, with the very first boats that actually did get in 2008, with the Gaza Freedom Movement, And then the 7 votes, there were 8 votes in that, 7 votes in the 2010 flotilla, 10 votes in the 2011 flotilla. Those that tried to make the voyage are in a flotilla harbor in Israel. They have all the votes. So rather than us spending more money, lots of money, to try to get publicity to highlight the fact that this blockade is still going on, we're trying a different thing. And that's where this little sign right up here called Gaza's Ark comes in. I'll just bring it down here so we can actually see it a little better.
Let me hold on.
Okay. We'll get a good picture of this. Maybe somebody else take a picture I can send to our website so that we'll have.
Takes it pretty well. Here we are. Okay. Down this way?
Yeah. Hang on to this one second. I'm going to get my little camera out.
I got it.
Somebody can.
Well, Audrey, I'll have it on mine before you get your camera out.
That's okay. That's good. I thank Aubrey for doing that.
Is this where you want me to stand?
Yeah, right there is great.
Okay.
And if somebody can take a picture of us. There we go. Well, this is our next project. It's called, go ahead and have it station project. It's called Gaza's Ark. And what we're going to do is now break the Israeli naval blockade of Gaza from the inside out. We've already purchased a small fishing trawler, a 30-meter fishing trawler, and we're renovating it into a cargo boat. And we are going to ask people like you all to purchase goods that are made in Gaza, because still, despite the blockade, things are being made. Beautiful handicrafts that Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza make. Dresses, vests, all sorts of beautiful embroidery work. Wood carvings that are being made. Foods that are being packaged dates and figs and marmalade and honey that can be transported. So we're asking people to buy those directly from the vendors, and on our website we have the link to the vendors that are participating in this program, so that you could purchase things, and then they will put a big note on it of who it is, where you live, and consign to Gaza's Ark. So in the springtime, when the boat is finished, we're going to have a big call for all of these goods to be brought down to the boat and placed on the boat in the cargo holds, and we're going to sail out of Gaza. And it should be the right of the people of Gaza. You know, the part of the blockade is that the people of Gaza can't get their produce out. Before the blockade started, there was a huge export industry in Gaza of fruits and vegetables and flowers that were grown in beautiful houses, greenhouses, that were flown on a daily basis up to Europe. But because of the blockade and the bombing, purposeful bombing of the Israeli military of huge numbers of these wonderful greenhouses, that has just virtually disappeared. So what we're trying to do is to highlight to the international community that, you know, the people of Gaza are they are prisoners. And now with the new Egyptian government, the military government that kicked Morsi out, that government has now collapsed most of the tunnels, most of the 300 tunnels that went between Egypt and Gaza, which was really the lifeline for petroleum, you name it, and it was coming through the tunnels. Of course, the Israelis say, well, weapons were going through them, and I'm sure there were some, but the overwhelming use of those tunnels was for life support for the people of Gaza. And now the Egyptian government has crushed that.
One fellow smuggled his bride into Gaza.
Oh, yeah.
So when did these tunnels, when were they collapsed? Is that just recently?
Yeah, just recently.
I've not heard anything about that having been done.
At first they flooded them with raw sewage. And then now they've started collapsing them, putting dynamite in and blowing them up. The Egyptian government now has knocked down buildings over 300 yards. They're doing what the Israelis have done. They're putting a buffer zone in Rafah, Egypt, next to the border. And I'm sure the people in Rafah are just apoplectic about this because they make a lot of money out of transporting goods into those tunnels. They took their cut out of what they allowed to go through to the Palestinians, and now that source of income for them has been squashed. Plus the fact that the government, the military government, is just knocking down buildings all over the place. They have kind of a free fire zone there. So and then the Egyptian Navy has started going into Gaza waters and has started firing on the Gaza fishermen, just like the Israeli Navy has been doing. So this military government is really tightening the clamps with the Israelis on the people of Gaza. You know, the last attack of Israel on Gaza happened last November. It was an 8-day attack. 164 people were killed in that attack. We went in the week after the attack ended, and one of the articles I wrote about it was the use of Israeli drones in killing people in Gaza. You know, Israel it's probably the oldest drone industry in the world. They've been working on these drones for decades now. And there is a 24-hour-a-day surveillance of Gaza, this little tiny place, 25 miles long, 5 miles wide. I mean, it's just a tiny place, easily covered by drones 24 hours a day, and you can hear them when you're there. You can hear them. You may not see them, but you can hear them on the quiet time when you're out on the farmlands right next to the Israeli border. So 35 people were killed by drones in that attack. And they're using something that the United States has learned. Well, the United States has learned from the Israeli attacks. The Israelis started this thing that's called double tap, that they fire on a car or house or whatever it is, blow up whatever it is, and the people in the neighborhood see what's happened. Oh my God, look, you know, our neighbor so-and-so is dead, or their house collapsed. We've got to go help dig them out. And so people come to aid, and then the second missile is fired to kill all of them. And that's what the United States is doing in both Afghanistan and Pakistan and Somalia. That they're waiting for the rescuers to come in and then kill them too. So the transfer of technology and military strategy goes back and forth between the Israeli military and the U.S. military, and also between the Israeli police and police departments throughout the world. A very interesting thing for you all here would be to find out if any of your law enforcement people have been for training with the Israeli police departments. Israel has a huge number of contracts in the United States for training U.S. law enforcement.
Do they come here to do the training?
A lot of it's done here. Sometimes U.S. people go to Israel, and they work hand in hand with the FBI through the FBI training facility down in Georgia.
I don't know what your thoughts are on, like,
Yeah.
you were talking about the president's speech and just sort of hidden language, twisted language, and during the last presidential election, or actually when Hillary Clinton and Obama and John McCain were all running for president, I watched their speeches before IPAC, the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee. I could watch their speeches, and they would all say virtually the same things, and it was things that most Americans wouldn't understand. Like, they would, if you just listened to them and literally took them at what they were saying, you wouldn't fully understand what they were saying. But if you really tried to read between the lines what they were all saying the same thing. They were all saying, we will give you virtually the same kind of policy towards Iran, we'll give you the virtually same kind of policy towards Palestinians. And they were all promising sort of the same thing. It was almost like they were groveling before IPAC, like, give us a bunch of money, help us win to become president. They all were saying the same thing. And it was like, so I wonder, like, I mean, I know IPAC is one of the most powerful lobbies in the United States, and What are your thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
well, APAC and the NRA are the two most powerful lobbies, I would say. And APAC is ruthless. They go into congressional offices and flatly tell congressmen and women, if you don't vote the way we want you to vote, we'll be putting tons of money in the next campaign against your opponent, and it may be a primary opponent. That's why Cynthia McKinney, Congresswoman out of Georgia, she was on one of the boats that went into Gaza, and the AIPAC went after her, and they ran somebody as a Democrat in the primary, and gave so much money to him that she was defeated.
I saw a cartoon one time, I think like 20 years ago, so the candidates running for in primaries on the stage before the party, and then somebody said, let us start with the Pledge of Allegiance. It's all standing up like that, Mr. Israeli flag.
Oh, geez. Oh, my. Well, let me give you all a little handout that I have for Gaza's Ark, and ask for your support for this project. Right now, we need lots of help in terms of we're still buying specific things for the boat, and if you look at our website, it will show you exactly what we're trying to purchase. Life jackets, anchor things, like that. I'll take two. Give it to a friend, please. And it also, more importantly, really right now to me, is that we really support the craftspeople in Gaza, because they are really having a tough time. And while we're paying 10 workmen to work on the boat. So we're giving employment to people in Gaza, to trade craftspeople. We want to support the arts and crafts community. And if you go on our website, you'll see links to some wonderful organizations like the School for the Deaf in Gaza. They have probably the best souvenir shop for visitors. It's just beautiful, beautiful things that are done by families of deaf folks. We've got the products of honey and dates and all that sort of stuff. And if you all, maybe as a community, could kind of work together on this what we're asking is that orders come in like groups of $500, because, as you can well imagine, this is going to be a logistic nightmare for us in terms of if the boat by some miracle gets out and the Israelis don't stop us, once we get it to the port of call and we put in the mail all of these packages, it would be so much easier for us if there was a big package that comes to Fayetteville, Arkansas, and that somebody here who has collected all the money, put in the order, and has kept the listing, that it would come to you. The more likely thing that would happen is that you would take a picture on the website or download the website of what you purchased and give that piece of paper, that printed out piece of paper from the website, to someone for Christmas to say, I have just purchased a beautiful Palestinian dress for you, or a handbag, or honey, or whatever, and here's a picture of it. And you're probably never going to see it, because it's going to end up in Israel. And you'll never see it, but I wanted to support this project so much that your Christmas present has now supported Gaza's Ark and the people in Gaza. So if I could ask you all to think about that, and would there be anyone that might want to be a point of contact for us here in Fayetteville for this? And can I put you all on an email listing for to get updates from Gaza's Ark? Would anybody like to be on that?
Well, I'd like to be on that. Maybe, yes.
Yeah, let me send a list around, and
That would be great. We can have to go with it.
actually, may I borrow a piece of paper and a pen from somebody? I left mine outside.
I think I broke my notebook.
Oh, good.
Here it is.
We could just write down.
Yeah. You want just a blank sheet?
Yeah. Because this has really caused a lot of
Here, and
Thank you.
we give it to him.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, if you want to write just your name and email, so I know it's.
Get it. And I'll have you copy what this is for.
In Gaza, this
This
is.
is our,
This has caused a lot of flurry of activity because people in Gaza feel like, I mean, they're really prisoners here. A year ago, 1,200 people were being allowed to leave Gaza every day through the border, through the Egyptian border. Now it's down to 200 a day. There's a backlog of over 10,000 people that are waiting for medical reasons, for educational reasons. Kids have gotten scholarships all over the world, and they can't get out of Gaza.
So our own consular services are really lacking, because we had a student who comes out from graduate student, PhD student, or the doctor, from Gaza. He was able to get out, he couldn't get the visa from the American consul to come back. I almost lost the semester.
To come back into the U.S. Yeah. Because they have to, it's a real mess. There are no consular services in Gaza, and generally they have to somehow get their passport over to. They have to get a visa either from our embassy in Tel Aviv or from the one in Cairo. Or Jerusalem, yeah. I mean, it's a real mess for.
And they can't go to Jerusalem.
That's right. And in trying to get back into Gaza after they've come out to get medical treatment someplace, for about a week, they were flying into Egypt, and the Egyptians would not let them out of the airport to even try to go to the Rafah border because they'd closed that border. So there were thousands of Palestinians that were just stuck at the airport, and then they started sending them back to the place where they had come from. So it's just a horrific situation for this 1.7 million people that live in this little area, 25 miles long and 5 miles wide. It's one of the worst tragedies that one can think of.
I have my card, right?
Yes.
and you've had a long day, and I advertise this to 6 to 8. You want to make final remarks or ask questions, and then maybe we'll close.
Okay, thank you.
Unless if there's, anybody just wants to go on and on. I'm the only one who goes to bed at 8 o'clock at night.
I would like to get a little more of the date lines that you have set up for this Gaza Ark, as far as, would it be for Christmas presents probably for this Christmas?
Right, you could order them for this Christmas, but the boat's not going to sail till next spring. So,
Okay.
but if you really want something, you can order it. If you want to actually give a physical thing, you can still order from those same places, and they will send it out to you so you'll get it. But if you want it to come on the Gaza's Ark, they will.
That would be next spring.
That would be next spring.
This is all explained here in
On the
this
website.
template.
Well,
To get to the website.
yes,
It's
that's
here.
right. The link to the website here, and it gives
see
you
it.
much through. And it has lots of pictures about of the boats and the people that are working on the boat, and it's really a good website.
Who are the folks in Broadway, Canada?
These are part of the group that did the Canadian boat to Gaza. So all of us have been working on various boats to Gaza campaigns for 3 years now. So we're all good friends.
That's how it happens.
Yeah.
I found it reported this morning on Democracy Now! that Israel is allowing some materials into the Gaza Strip, if I heard them right. I think they're mostly construction materials. I could be wrong, I have to look at that again. The other thing I wanted to ask you, although it's slightly changing topics a little bit, sometime, a few years ago, a couple of years ago, I listened to a conversation you had with Cindy Sheehan. I downloaded it, and towards the end of the interview, you were talking about the fact that you are invited to go speak at high schools and talk to the kids. I found it very interesting. I was wondering if you talk about that now for a couple of minutes and tell everyone what you say to them and what the reaction of the kids is.
Okay, well,
That's
first,
really, I found that really interesting.
on Democracy Now, the Israeli government has, it's not a total blockade. They have been letting in like 10% of what's necessary to keep a population of 1.7 million people alive. 10% is all they're letting in. They've allowed some extra, it might have gone up to 12% on construction materials because the place is just, the majority, like 90% of everything needed is coming through those tunnels, and since they've been blocked, somebody must have got to somebody in the Israeli government to say, could you just please let it just go up a little bit more? But it's not like they're being benevolent at all. There's still 83% or 87% more that ought to be coming in to support that population. On the issue of talking to high school kids, I do like to go to high schools and talk about it's primarily the military service, kids that are thinking about going into the military. And having been in the military myself for nearly 30 years, I tell them that, the reason I joined was because as much as I had a great childhood in Bentonville, Arkansas, the only reason I joined was I wanted to get the hell out of Arkansas. And that's why, I wanted to go out and see the world. And at that time, back in the 60s, it could be a school teacher, a nurse, a homemaker, all very good and noble, and I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to go travel, and my family didn't have the money, but the Army came through, join the Army, see the world. You're a woman, you won't have to go to Vietnam. And so I joined during the Vietnam War. And I wasn't a nurse, so I didn't get in that. What I tell them is that, and I asked them from the beginning, how many of you all are thinking about going to the military? And considering today's economic times, and depending on what population you're talking to, half the class may have their hands up. And in talking to them about, do any of you all have friends or family members that are in the military that have been to Iraq and Afghanistan and it's all that? Well, did they come back the same way that they left? Were they the same people? And the kind of the thing that really gets to them is the issue of sexual assault in the military. And 1 in 3 women that are in the military will be sexually assaulted or raped while in the military. The statistics on men we don't really know, but of the reported rapes in the military last year, 10% of them were reported by men. The Department of Defense, and there were 3,200 rapes reported last year. The Department of Defense is now estimating that, and this is their estimate, that 26,000 people in our military are sexually assaulted each year. And when you say to these kids, that this is a predatory organization that is doing nothing to stop men who want to prey on women and men. And if you join, you better be careful. You better have a good buddy that is always with you and watching out for you. Because 1 in 3 women, 1, 2, 3, one of you all is going to get raped by your military. So that will, at the end of it, is how many of you all really think you're going to look into going into the military? And that half of the room will be down to about 2 or 3 people.
All hands go out.
That statistic right there is one of the best counter recruitment arguments I've run into.